and I discovered Origin Oil. Yeah, I started buying stock in it, and I remember when it came up with the in situ process, right?
Right.
Of producing a higher, getting a higher yield of algae oil, and
Correct.
then I remember when they took that same technology and they found they could start cleansing contaminated waters and so forth. I live in Colorado. These mine sites out west, they're all Superfund sites. Yeah, three to $8 million a year easily in wastewater treatment,
Hmm.
and it doesn't clean the source, right? And I know personally that like waste management in the southeast, just in one state, pays about $1 million a month to have their sludge processed. You
Uh-huh.
can go with this technology, you can go back to the source and you can regenerate usable water for crops, for livestock, right? As well as take the byproduct and reuse it as treatment for the soils. You could create a whole secondary market for the farmers.
Well, especially when now I'm hearing there's this. I heard about a hog farm in Indiana off Route 65 that pays $4 million a month to waste
Yeah.
management.
So the opportunity is definitely there. And to help those guys, you could go as a service,
Hmm.
right? Rather than selling a product, you sell a solution or a service. I got solar panels on my house.
Yeah.
I had two choices. I could go capital and pay 45 grand up front. I was going to have to do all the maintenance myself and so forth. But here in Colorado, they allow others to come out. And this company called Sunrun came out and said, hey, we'll lease the
Hmm.
panels to you and we'll maintain them. I went, really? They said, yeah, can we look at your bill, what you're paying on average? So I showed them 3 months of utility bills, right, with Excel Energy. Honestly, I was paying between, especially in the summer, easily $400 to $500 a month.
Yeah. It's crazy.
They came back and said, I would $160 a month, $1,000 down, 11-year lease. We'll maintain them, right? And any excess energy you build up, you don't consume, we'll bank it,
Hmm.
and you can use it in the winter months.
Hmm.
They've easily saved me about $3,600 a year. Well, you turn around these farmers who are struggling right now on some of their prices, and you take what's a waste stream and a cost burden for them, you make it usable, reusable water that reduces their well tapping needs and fees, right? And then you also take the byproduct and help them create like a secondary market where they can use it on their crops as well as if they got any excess, right? Or offer them a rebate that you take it and you create that secondary market off that waste. It'll be a win-win-win for everybody.
No, you're absolutely right. Now the twist that we've done on that, because one thing that does require is capital, and what we learned about capital in this market post-virus is
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of money, but it's hard money, right? So
Yeah,
it happened in the Great Recession. All this money was fed into the system, but then the
right,
banks raised the requirements. People needed the money, couldn't get it, right?
right.
So it's kind of a vicious circle. So Ken and I really saw this problem occurred back in January. We saw China shut down. We're like, okay, here it comes. And we realized that what we need to do was to find a short circuit. This led to the realization that the everyday investor in America, the Main Street investor, cannot invest in a water project. Doesn't exist, right? They can buy shares in Veolia or American Waterworks or an
Right.
ETF, or they can well, Wall Street invests in the bonds for the municipality, but all these businesses, let's say a brewery expanding its capacity, it really has to go for conventional financing. We don't have a sun run, we don't have a water run yet, and that requires its own special capital um, capitalization. What we said is, hey, why don't we crowdsource it, right? Let's crowdsource the capital so that we have an ordinary investor like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you would go, well, there's a housing development here. Well, you're looking at a listing of projects because we have a marketplace. Well, here's a housing development. They need a $100,000 system for their Blackwater reflush. That way they won't have to go 1.5 miles on the sewage line, and they can take care of that stuff. And the water goes in the clean water goes in the golf course, and everybody's happy. And that $1,000 means that they'll pay $5,000 a month on a short-term rental, but I will continue to own that device. It will not go in the ground. It'll stay roll in, roll out, right? Because we are the
Right.
pioneers of this modular system. So it's got to be a rent-a-center model so that the three things that we know works in this economy, which is yield, liquidity, and safety, are all achieved, right? You got the yield because it's a short-term rental, not that the end user, like you say, can always convert to a lease, not a problem. And we incentivize them to do that buyout. Number two, the liquidity is there in the sense that the investor gets a rent roll. That's good. And number three, safety. It is that investor's property. They take the Section 179 depreciation year one. So they get that nice, technically $100,000 accelerated depreciation. I know that it goes into his overall tax picture, but it has a definite value to that investor to take that accelerated depreciation. After 5 years, if that thing is still not bought out by the end user, it reverts to the water company, OriginClear or whoever, for $1. Now the water company has an asset. The investor got his accelerated depreciation 5 years before, had 5 years of rent rolls, and everybody's a happy camper. So I'm kind of, the reason I'm saying this to you is not so much to pitch you, but to kind of get, does that a reality check? Does that work in your opinion?
No, I totally get it. I mean, if you had to deal with a government municipality, the RFP process in itself would be at least a year.
I know, we know it.
Like,
Randy, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time. It's been very instructive, and I hope that we will have a good and fruitful relationship going forward.
that sounds good to me, Riggs. Appreciate you taking time to speak with me.